Welcome everyone to TAC Team Tune-Up. This is where we look at training and curriculum development for law enforcement. Now, this episode, I'm going to be talking about our approach and our mentality regarding physical ability testing for law enforcement training academies. Now, the training academy in itself should be a front line of education, being able to empower the foundation of education, fundamentals of job specific skills, but then also building that framework on a physical fitness and cognitive function capacity and capabilities. And so we truly believe, and I want to emphasize, I truly believe, and usually programs I work with share that mentality. And that's why programs that I work with and programs that I'm working on tend to really grow and really prosper because of that shared mentality. If you don't have if you don't see eye to eye or have the same perspective of where the program should go or how it should develop, things don't usually end up as smooth. So I really love the fact that the programs I'm working with, we really see eye to eye, and we can really make huge strides in the aspect of cadet preparation. Now, mentality. Why do we do physical ability testing? I'm a true believer that every agency or every training academy should have some form of physical ability testing, whether it be very isolated, like a fitness assessment, or more job sim based. And those are two different sides to the same coin, right? Fitness assessments are very isolated in nature. Maybe you're looking at a component, maybe you dissect down to lower body and then you say lower body power. Maybe you're looking at mobility of the shoulder. Maybe you're looking at performing something like a push-up test or a horizontal row test or the concept 2 rowing test, right? There are various types of fitness assessment based testing. But then job simulation based testing is where I usually see this in the aspect of running a course, performing tasks that more heavily reflect different maneuvers, different ways, different approaches that you're going to actually perform in the field. For instance, sprinting and then having to jump over and go under and then having to move an object, manipulate an object, having to serpentine around cones and different things like that, right? That you're actually going to do in the field, where it takes multiple components to do those tasks, not just one. It takes multiple, if not all, muscle groups, right? But it takes multiple muscle groups. Since you're not really isolating down a specific component, it's many different components are accumulated, many different movement patterns, many different just overall capabilities of fitness are being applied to perform a task. So those are two different sides. And I believe every single training academy should have one or the other, or both. Both gives you the sense of being able to pick apart a job task and say what fitness assessments allowed you to perform the tasks efficiently, which ones correlated over. For instance, maybe one task required a lot more strength. And so when you're doing the fitness assessments and you look for strength and you see a cadet that has a higher level of strength, maybe they perform really well in that one job task that was in the job simulation based testing. So, it allows you to look at both sides. But taking a step back and more kind of tying in where I want to go with this episode was, why should testing exist? Why should physical ability testing exist? And the overall, I believe all cadets should know where they stand, should know where they currently are. In everyday life, especially for those that are already performing some sort of fitness program. Maybe they're going to the gym. Maybe you are, training at home. Maybe you do manual labor. Maybe you do something where you're physically active, but you don't really know where you measure up. You don't really know where your current status is. So you don't necessarily know where you're going past that. So it gives you a baseline. It says, hey, this is where you're at in this battery of tests. And if you want to progress forward, how do you pick apart the test? How do you pick apart your results to be able to program and train to improve whatever those components or attributes are that you want to improve? Not just a baseline, but an awareness piece for those, the personnel or the cadets that do not train, What about those that maybe you've never gotten your heart rate up to a certain extent, or maybe you've never pushed yourself in a physical fitness training environment? And so physical ability testing allows you to go, okay, not only do I need to perform, not only do I need to be able to do job tasks that are going to correspond to things I might do in the field, but I'm also having to maneuver in a way that I may have never required myself to do, especially at that intensity, and to be efficient at it. And so it's just an overall awareness piece. It gives you a baseline, gives you awareness. On top of that is it gauges the efficiency of a program. So let's say you come in on day one and you perform some sort of physical ability testing. And then you acquire your results and you go, okay, I want to get better at this. Let me start training. Let me start, go home, go to the gym, whatever. Maybe there's PT within the academy, but in some form or fashion you train. Well, you need to gauge, is that training working? And so utilize that next up and coming physical ability test to establish whether you're improving or not. And maybe you're improving, but maybe not in the components in which that actually carry over towards that test. For instance, if a test requires strength and power, which many critical tasks require strength and power, right? Whether it's sprinting power, whether it's being able to bounce, being able to jump, maybe the strength, especially with a victim rescue or dummy drag, having the strength to lift as well as to maneuver the object or the weighted dummy. You have to have those components. And if you're just going for a run, if you're just performing cardiovascular training because you did the physical ability test, you are winded, and so you believe it's all cardio, then maybe that's all you're doing from a training piece. And then you do the pad again and realize maybe you didn't improve the way you thought you would. And so you should take a step back and go, okay, am I actually training the components that are going to allow me to improve? And so that's where, personal trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, tactical strength and conditioning facilitators, those that are qualified to evaluate and to give you recommendations, they're going to help you during that process. So I'm a huge fan as far as physical ability testing goes. Now, depending on the program is going to dictate how they're implemented, how often are they implemented, what is going to be the approach for implementing actual physical training, what is the programming behind the physical training, and so forth. But again, that's going to depend on the program, depending on how much time can be dedicated toward PT, who the PT instructor is, and so forth. So many different factors with that. With the programs that I work with, I usually recommend, especially because law enforcement training academies, especially the BPOCs, they're a good 6 to 9 months, maybe 10 months, depending on depending on the academy, how they spread out the curriculum. You have multiple checkpoints. We'll usually run about 4, maybe 5, maybe 6, depending on the day class or night class. So many factors, but we do make sure we get in more than just a pre-post. You need some kind of mid-test because usually there's a shift in the intervention. There's a shift in how people are training. And I really want people to know when and how to make adjustments throughout that process. That's why 3 is kind of the staple, right? If you got 6, maybe 9 months, at least do 3. Do a pre, allow people to train, or if you're providing PT, and then allows you to make some, implement your PT, do a mid-test and go, okay, are we improving? Where are we improving? And how do we need to make adjustments or progress forward throughout the remainder of the academy? So always do a mid-test. That's just, again, mentality on my side as a strength and conditioning professional, is being able to gauge where we're at least midterm, and then making adjustments and then striving for that post-test. With that post-test, sometimes with the academies I work with, it's never tied to graduation specifically where you have to pass to graduate. But I like to encourage in utilizing that as a gauge for where you at when you're going to do some sort of new hire entrance PT test. Now, we do have a lot of cadets, and I'm aware of throughout the process, if you're already sponsored, you've probably already completed your PT for the new hire entrance process. Maybe the agency didn't have one, whatever that might be. throughout the academy. A lot of cadets try to get sponsored or try to get a job while they're going through the academy. So again, just having a PAT, having some sort of physical ability test at the very beginning of the academy also adds value, because now it's, hey, on day one, this is where you're at. So if you're going through this academy trying to go, to an agency and get hired, and they're going to require you to do a PT test, then you know where you're at. Now, I'll also add to this, you need to figure out on an academy side, you need to figure out what test agencies are using, especially from a local or maybe a regional sense, because usually you're bringing in applicants from the region or at a local level. And so you need to figure out what tests they have to pass. I have, within the programs I work with, I have multiple agencies where they require the road test. Now, whether you believe in the road test or not, whether you implement it or not, that's beside the point. The point is, a lot of agencies in our area do implement the concept to road test. And so therefore, I'll usually have cadets come in on a volunteer basis, come in and perform their road test. They either do the 500 meter or do the 2,000 meter row, and I allow them to get their scores. And I even encourage it. Hey, if anyone is doing or applying for an agency and you have to do a road test, please find time and I will make time for you to come in and to perform your test and gauge where you're at. And this is periodically, right? This isn't every single day. There are plenty of areas, plenty of spaces people can go to practice or to train the road test. By all means, if I'm in the building, if I'm working in my office or something, I do. If I'm not busy, or if there's something I can do while I'm in our space, meaning while I'm in our facility, while they're doing the road test, I can go kind of supervise, but work at the same time to where they can train, then by all means, I try to encourage that. I also have some criminal justice students reach out that want to train and want to get better so that they can look for jobs while they're considering BPOC or not, and so forth. So I kind of open that up to whoever possible. But that's just because of the position that I'm in, to be able to allow access to facility and to supervise that kind of think measurement baselines and training and so forth. So very unique situation that I have where I'm able to provide that access. But going back to our topic, physical ability testing, couldn't encourage it more. You need to have it within a training academy. You have to have something that says, one, you're not perfect. Two, everyone starts somewhere. This is where you're at. Three, let's analyze this. Let's break this down and let's figure out how we're moving forward. But then four, if you're training, how do you know your training's efficient? How do you know you're progressing? How do you know you're improving in the areas that you need to improve? So all of this being said, make sure you implement some sort of testing into your training program, implement some sort of testing into your academy, and provide cadets with the best aspect of physical fitness preparation possible.